President Trump's taxes leaked. 2 pages from his 2005 return revealing big earnings and millions in taxes. Now out in public after he vowed to keep them under wraps.
I'm not releasing the tax returns because, as you know, they're under audit.
The White House calls the leak illegal. The big question this morning, who's behind it?
The big dig out. The Northeast now cleaning up from that massive storm, dumping more than 3 feet of snow in New York. Dangerous winds whipping up waves, sending trees crashing into homes. This tractor trailer jackknifing on a bridge. A snowplow flipping over, and it left cars buried in Pennsylvania. Now, the new warnings as the deep freeze spreads all the way to Florida.
Ben Affleck's personal confession. The superstar revealing he secretly sought treatment for alcohol addiction. His estranged wife Jennifer Garner supporting him through it all. Now Affleck, in his own words, sharing an inspiring message for his kids, his co-parent Jen, and anyone afraid to seek help.
And Prince William caught on camera showing off his dance moves at a nightclub in this footage released by TMZ, hanging out with a model on a getaway with friends, skipping out on a family affair. Some are asking now, is he shirking his royal responsibilities?
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
Good morning, America. Busy Thursday right here. And for millions across the Northeast, a lot of digging this morning.
Yeah, they're going to be busy digging out, George. But it wasn't as bad as some feared in New York City, but plenty of places got a lot of snow. Let's take a look at what happened in Scranton, Pennsylvania with these cars that are buried there. That's a lot of digging to get out. And in Staten Island, 2 ponies escaping when the barn door was blown open by the wind. And we can happily report they were safely put back in the barn. They're back home, nice and warm.
Just out for a little run.
Yeah,
No worries there. We're going to have much more on the storm and deep freeze coming up, but we are going to begin with that revelation overnight. A portion of President Trump's 2005 tax returns now made public. The document showing how much he made, how much he lost, and how much he paid in income taxes that year. Our chief White House correspondent, John Carl, has all those details for us. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Robin. These are not Trump's full tax returns, but just a 2-page summary. And it shows that for 2005, at least, he paid millions of dollars in taxes. Overnight, that Trump tax revelation. The first 2 pages of his 2005 filing leaked, showing an income of nearly $153 million. The president ended up paying $38 million in taxes. That adds up to an effective tax rate of just over 25%. Trump paid less than what was the top income tax rate of 35% that year by declaring $103 million in losses, greatly reducing his total tax bill. For more than a year, Donald Trump has refused to release his taxes, even telling George last spring that it's none of his business.
What is your tax rate?
It's none of your business. You'll see it when I release. But I fight very hard to pay as little tax as possible.
The 2-page tax summary was obtained by journalist David K. Johnston, who said he received it in the mail and announced it with much hype on Rachel Maddow's show on MSNBC. Johnston says he has no idea who sent it to him, but he doesn't rule out the possibility that it was Donald Trump himself.
Let me point out it's entirely possible that Donald sent this to me. Donald Trump has over the years leaked all sorts of things.
Although Trump's effective tax rate in 2005 was significantly lower than the top income tax bracket, Trump's rate of 25% is actually much higher than what Mitt Romney paid the year before he ran for president, just 14%. This is the second time a 2-page summary of Trump's taxes has been sent anonymously to a reporter. In October, the first 2 pages of Trump's 1995 return was sent to the New York Times. In that return, however, Trump paid no taxes at all because he was able to declare a whopping $916 million loss that included 3 failed casinos, among other business ventures. The White House confirmed the accuracy of these leaked pages, but also blasted the reporter who got them, saying, quote, "It is totally illegal to steal and publish tax returns." It's important to point out, George, that this, again, is just a 2-page summary. There are a lot of unanswered questions here. The summary does not get into specifics about where he got his money or what his financial ties are. George?
Thanks, John. We are joined now by the man at the center of this storm, Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter David K. Johnston. Congratulations. You broke this on D.C. Report Doc Ord. So you've covered Donald Trump and his taxes for years. You open your mail, you find these pages from 2005, but do you really think he could have leaked them to you?
Yeah, Donald has a long history of leaking things about himself. Sometimes
he
things
doesn't like you, though.
No, and I think it's in the realm of possibility that he.
So no evidence.
No, it's a possibility, or someone in his direction. But the venom and the anger and the falsehoods in the White House statement suggests that no, he's probably not the source of this.
There is on that page 2 of the document that it says client copy.
Yes.
What does that tell you?
Well, that tells me that this is somebody who either worked at the accounting firm or had connections to it, or this copy was turned over to someone in a regulatory proceeding, in litigation, in a financial statement. And why not the whole return? Well, if somebody wanted to photocopy something, they're not going to take 1,000 pages to the photocopier.
Just to be clear, when this leak happened in the New York Times last summer, the envelope had the return address of Trump Tower.
Right.
Any return address on your envelope?
No. And that's the one I suspect Donald did leak those last summer or last fall, because they
didn't make him look very good.
Well, in Donald's mind, it would. He's a very unusual character as to what he thinks makes him look good.
There was a lot of speculation after that story came out last summer that he could have avoided paying any federal income taxes for up to 18 years. This clearly shows that he paid millions in taxes, also made a lot of money.
It does. It shows that he was very successful, and it also implies that he had an average income of $81.5 million in the previous 10 years, because he had bought this tax shelter when he didn't pay back over $900 million in loans to the banks. The banks wrote that off. He bought a tax shelter that let him deduct the same amount of money.
Big question now is, you just got 2 pages from 2005. What doesn't this show?
Well, it doesn't tell us who Trump is beholden to. I mean, we know, for example, that he owes money to Deutsche Bank, which is deeply involved in money laundering for the Russians. He owes money to the Communist Bank in China, the Bank of China, which is also the largest tenant in Trump Tower. We have a U.S. president who's in hock to a bank in China. We don't know who he's getting his revenue from. We don't know who his partners are or who he's done business with in foreign countries, and that could have major national security implications.
We do now know that this audit excuse that the president said is no real reason not to release
absolute nonsense.
His tax return. So and now we've seen 1995 and 2005. These 2005 returns are certainly not scandalous in any way from what we know of what was released. So what is he trying to hide in your view? You've covered him for a long time.
I don't think he wants us to know all the people he's done business with, both those he's beholden to and those he receives income from. But there actually is something in here that I think is very important, George. One of the key elements of Donald Trump's tax plan is getting rid of the alternative minimum tax. You and I and everybody else who's prosperous in America is on the alternative minimum tax. If that tax hadn't existed, Donald Trump would have paid a tax rate on his $153 million lower than the average paid by the poorest half of Americans.
So you're saying, based on this 2005 tax return, the Donald Trump tax proposal now would give a big benefit to Donald Trump?
An enormous benefit to him, and if you put that across a lot of people, it would have also caused serious problems for us in doing all the things government needs to do.
Think this will spring more leaks?
I hope so.
David K. Johnson, thanks very much.
Thank you, George.
And now the president has weighed in on Twitter. He says, does anybody really believe that a reporter who nobody ever heard of went to his mailbox and found my tax returns? At NBC News, fake news. Of course, Donald Trump has heard of David K. Johnson, as we said. He's been covering him for an awful long time.
He knows who he is. Well, let's talk about the legal implications, if there are any, because the White House is saying this is against the law. Is that the case?
Probably not. There is a specific law on the books that makes it a felony to release, without authorization, tax returns or tax-related return information. But that's typically viewed as applying to IRS agents or the government. Furthermore, there's specifically a Supreme Court case out there which addressed the question of the media getting information that was illegally obtained. Can they publish it? And the answer, according to the Supreme Court, was yes. I mean, if the media can't report on the president's tax returns, then what does the First Amendment mean? So I think that there's almost no question that Rachel Maddow, MSNBC, David K. Johnson are all on sound ground.
And in recent years, all the presidents have made their tax returns public. They brought them forth. But when you look at the documents that have been released, there's nothing illegal It doesn't seem that within those return.
No, that's absolutely. This is actually a good return
Right.
for Donald Trump. I mean, the only thing controversial, as you just heard there, is this idea of the alternative minimum tax. Meaning, if Donald Trump supports the idea of getting rid of the alternative minimum tax, it shows you how little tax someone like him would have had to pay. Because that was the biggest chunk of tax he paid in 2005. You get rid of that alternative minimum tax, and he's paying almost nothing in taxes. So as a matter of policy, that's the biggest danger in this sort of information becoming public. But again, I don't expect that the Trump administration is going to do anything about it.
Legal action.
I don't think they're going to take legal action. They didn't take legal action against Politico and the New York Times for more damaging information, and I don't think they want the precedent to be set against them.
Dan Abrams, thank you.
All right.
Okay, we're going to move on now to the battle over health care. President Trump pushing hard as opposition continues to mount from Republicans in the House and Senate, and some of the president's closest conservative allies as well, after that CBO report shows it could leave 24 million more people uninsured in a decade. Our senior White House correspondent Cecilia Vega has the latest. Good morning, Cecilia.
George, good morning to you. The White House says the president is proud of this plan and that he still stands by it. But as you said, the opposition is growing louder. One Republican senator says there is cause for alarm.
The pushback against the plan to repeal and replace Obamacare.
We want health care, not Ryan's wealth care.
Landing right at the steps of Speaker Paul Ryan's Wisconsin office.
Medicare for all.
And this morning, pushback from across the speaker's own political party, too. Conservative Republicans in the House and Senate saying the plan doesn't deliver on the party's promise to dismantle Obamacare. Moderate members worried about that report card on the plan that says millions could lose coverage. Overnight, the architect of that plan coming to its defense.
Sure, there are people who have concerns or criticisms, but that's what happens when you get consensus. We have an obligation to keep our promises, to pass the reforms that we told people we would pass if we got this opportunity.
Going on offense, the White House.
What the Congressional Budget Office is good at is estimating income and expenses in various federal programs. What I think they're less effective at is really evaluating what happens in the marketplace.
The reality for many Americans could be harsh. A 64-year-old with a $26,000 salary could see a huge spike in their premiums, from $1,700 a year under Obamacare to nearly $15,000 under the GOP plan, a nearly $13,000 a year increase. But Press Secretary Sean Spicer says the president will keep his campaign promise.
Can you stand here today and say that the president will keep his promise of insurance for everybody?
I think the president's goal is to provide insurance, to make insurance available to everybody. Yes, that's what he intends to do.
And today the president hits the road. He is heading to Detroit and then to Nashville, where he is expected to make a pitch on his health care plan. He will also, George, be laying a wreath at the tomb of Andrew Jackson.
Okay, Cecilia, on another front, one of the president's closest allies in Congress, Congressman Steve King of Iowa, under some fire now for that tweet he had the other day where he was really appealing to white nationalist sentiment, saying we can't restore our civilization with somebody else's babies. The White House has to respond to that.
Yeah, a total head scratcher of a tweet, George, that is drawing a lot of criticism. At first, the White House didn't respond to questions about that tweet. Yesterday, though, Sean Spicer did really try to put some distance between the president and King. As you said, they are allies. But yesterday, Spicer said that the president believes that he is a president for all Americans. This is not a point of view that he shares, George.
Okay, Cecilia Vega, thanks very much. Michael?
All right, George, we're going to turn to that major cleanup that's underway from that nor'easter that shut down cities along the East Coast. And Rob Marciano is in Barrett Township, Pennsylvania, with more on that. Good morning, Rob. And I got to say that blue is a good color on you, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, man. And it pops against the white snow, no doubt about that. They are buried here in northeast Pennsylvania, one of 6 states that got at least 20 inches of snow, and it's drifting, so difficult to measure right here. That says about 15 inches. Look at this car. It's completely gone. You get into some of these snow drifts, and you almost lose this yardstick. This system had everything. It had wind, it had waves, it had a lot of sleet and snow. It was a beast of a storm.
From Pennsylvania to Maine, millions digging out this morning. After the March blizzard dropped as much as 41 inches of snow in upstate New York. Coastal communities in Massachusetts and Maine dealing with up to a foot of snow and wind gusts up to 80 miles per hour, causing waves to come crashing over the breakwater. Check out this tractor trailer spinning out in Boston. barely missing cars, somehow managing to stay upright as it crosses all over traffic lanes. Snowfall reaching 2 feet in parts of northeast Pennsylvania. These cars in Scranton completely submerged. 60,000 without power in Massachusetts alone. This power line causing concern after it ignited. Major highways in Connecticut shut down. Watch as this car fishtails left and right as it tries to make its way on the road. In New York, drivers not faring any easier. This snowplow overwhelmed and overturned. Public works crews working late into the night to shovel and salt to get commuters back to work this morning.
The lot will be clean and everyone will be able to walk again.
State officials still concerned.
We are still clearing the roads. Many of them are filled with sleet and slush.
Yeah, there's still snow coverage, so clearing them is going to be tough, especially with this wind today, blowing and drifting more snow, and the wind chill, which right now is near 0 in the middle of March. It's brutal. Michael?
All right, thank you, Rob. Still dangerous out there.
It certainly is. But now to a breaking headline in that massive Yahoo hack. The Justice Department set to reveal who they think stole hundreds of millions of users' personal information. Our senior justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, has those details for us. Good morning, Pierre.
Good morning, Robin. That's right. The U.S. government is about to reveal who it thinks is behind some of the biggest private security breaches in history. Sources tell ABC News the government is going to accuse at least 4 people, a Canadian and at least 3 Russians, of stealing the personal information of hundreds of millions of Yahoo users. And those sources say some of the hackers are suspected of having ties to the Russian government, Robin.
All right, Pierre, thank you very much. And Amy is back. She has the morning's other top stories, starting with a fire on an airliner.
That's right. It is a new warning, though, for passengers this morning after a pair of headphones exploded and caught fire on a flight. Some of these images are tough to look at. This is the unnamed passenger who was wearing them on a recent flight to Australia. She threw the headphones on the floor as they sparked. Australian authorities said today it's likely the batteries caught fire. That passenger has thankfully recovered. And the Navy is vowing to clean up a growing bribery scandal. That promise follows the arrest of 9 officers, including a retired admiral. They're accused of giving a war classified information in exchange for lavish perks, including prostitutes. And 2 Texas lawmakers have become social media's version of the odd couple. Republican Will Hurd and Democrat Beto O'Rourke carpooled from Texas to Washington because their flights were canceled by the blizzard, so they decided to road trip it. And guess what? We're learning a lot about them thanks to Facebook Live.
I've lost Will Hurd. I don't know where the heck he went. He may have gone into this IHOP. I think Will's got kind of a small bladder.
We're going to pay for the same, but can we do it in 2 different bags? First one.
High maintenance customer.
They're hoping to make it to D.C. in time for a House vote tonight. But I love what they said. They say on a road trip, you can have uncomfortable conversations, but eventually find cooperation on those 1,000 miles they have together.
It's a long drive. Yeah.
It was faster than the flight, though, apparently.
When you keep talking about flight, for 2 days I've been trying to get out. Hopefully I'll make it out today to Austria.
I know, fingers crossed.
I know. But good to have you back.
Thank you. I got to come back early.
Did you have to show those pictures in Turks and Caicos like that, rubbing it in?
I know, but then did you see my pictures from yesterday with 2 feet of snow upstate? Yeah, so it's quite the opposite, but it was fun.
Yeah, but Ginger, it wasn't as bad here as we thought, but that's not the case everywhere.
It's not. And I have to say, even with 7.6 inches in the city, right? You saw all the cars covered. It's still a sloppy mess. I think the roads are terrible. So even if you got 7 inches, 10 inches in the Bronx, or you got 40 inches in parts of New York, you're waking up with a lot of slush, and it's going to stay. Look at the freeze warnings that go all the way down to Jacksonville, Gainesville, very cold. As we get into the next couple of mornings, we're talking single digits in a lot of places here in the Northeast. Your local weather in 30 seconds. First, though, the warm cities, brought to you by CarMax.
CarMax offers a 5-day money-back guarantee, so you can return a car you purchased for any reason within 5 days for a full refund. Now, this is not some kind of an advertising gimmick. It's just the right thing to do, like saving puppies in a hurricane, or helping a tortoise across a busy road, or not eating somebody's yogurt when it is clearly marked with their name. I know it was you, Bill. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. To recap, 5-day guarantee, puppies, tortoises, yogurt.
Watch out for icy sidewalks and icy roads. It will be cold and very windy today, too. Gusts could top out over 40 miles per hour. But look at the temperatures. Mid-30s, our coldest day since early January. Those wind chills by afternoon may be up to around 20 degrees. And we'll deal with more of the refreeze each and every day through Friday morning. Higher temperatures come our way this upcoming weekend. But we are going to be tracking some rain showers, mainly Saturday into early Sunday morning.
And coming up, Ben Affleck.